Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bitcoin Business Bureau. And yes, it's a little bit of a late start, but hey, we're going to roll with it. It's part of being live. So, Divvy Daddy, thank you for joining me.
You got it.
Hey, and let's see. People are going to roll in. We got to get a couple of questions already from Corey Lett. But before I started, I wanted to talk about what everybody's talking about today, CPI and the dollar. And I was doing a little bit of thoughts about it. And I know we've been talking about how the dollar is going the different directions, or the dollar is at an all-time high, and how is it that inflation's going up and what the numbers are like. But I thought about it, and I'm probably going to make a video about it at some point, but everybody was doing CPI today, so I wasn't going to do CPI. But the dollar is an all-time high. The Dixie or the DXY is like 108 last I checked. And with it being so high, it's kind of like when you go shopping and everybody right now, like things are more and more expensive right now because the inflation is high. The inflation's over at 9%. So things that there were $11 last year are now like 12, and that's what the CPI means. Is it's 9% higher now than it was a year ago. Now, to figure out the DXY and the dollar compared to everything else, imagine like all the other countries of the world are at the shopping center, and the shopping center is you have to buy dollars, and everybody has to go shopping with their native currency, be it the rupee, be it the won, be it the yen, or so on, because the dollar is the world currency, and they have to pay for things in dollars. So people have to go and get dollars to keep things good with their creditors, which is the world. The world, everybody wants to keep their good credit rating and keep paying on their bonds so they can borrow more money. Otherwise, they go bankrupt and they can't get more loans. So countries have to go and get dollars if they're going to keep in that system. But the dollar keeps getting more and more expensive. That's what the DXY says. It's like it's comparison of the dollar to all the other ones. So it was a perfect time for them to say that CPI was over 9%, even though I expected it to be in the 8s, like 8.5 to 8.8 was the expectation. So now the dollar is going to be too powerful. So now this by saying the CPI is higher than expected, that means the dollar isn't buying as much, which would give strength to other currencies and should bring the value of the dollar down, comparatively speaking, to everything else. So the dollar would be a little bit cheaper compared to everything else because the dollar's buying power is going down because inflation is too high. So I think it's a perfect time for them to because we all know that the number 9% is still even too low, because if you go to shadowstats.com, it's not correct. It's probably my rule of thumb is whatever they announce, just double it. That's probably the most accurate number. Shadow Stats is probably I haven't seen the number what they calculated for this year, but they used 1980 math versus present math, which the present math is manipulated. They really they manipulate the numbers to make the CPI look as low as possible, because that's the bill to the U.S. government that they have to pay, like military wages and Social Security and so on, based on that CPI number. But with the dollar being so strong, they can afford to have the inflation a little bit higher, comparatively speaking, and this will help the rest of the world to be able to afford to go get dollars, because
that's the laughable part. The whole point that we even say, like, now really pause and think about this, guys. The dollar is strong. Like, again, let's just really think about it. The comparison of us going shopping is a real good one, because right now the only thing that the DXY tells us is if you're shopping with the dollar, you get a sale. The guy shopping with the other currencies doesn't, because your dollar is supposedly worth a lot more now. What happens when the DXY comes back down to where we think it should be, and when it starts really leveling out at 103? Because what I believe is going to happen, what I believe should be happening, is very soon I'm getting ready to take my son in and maybe buy a silver coin, because I believe silver will go down if people believe the dollar is strong. And I don't understand how the idea dollar is strong. I really subscribe more to Economic Ninja, who says, the dollar is just the best smelling turd in the punch bowl. Because the dollar is not strong. The dollar is weak, and everything else is weak, and it's bleeding in. And that's why we expect prices to go up, because it takes more dollars to buy the same thing. So the dollar is not strong, even though it appears to be strong.
Yeah, it's all relatively. The DXY is just a relative comparison, the dollar compared to a mixed bag of all the other currencies out there. So the dollar results just it's strong comparatively speaking, but more and more deals are happening each day. And I'm probably going to make a video about it tomorrow about how the rupee, that news came out this week. The rupee is like, they made a deal that India said, if you're going to do foreign exchanges now, you should do it in rupees instead of the dollar, because they want to they want to strengthen their own currency. Like, they
Actually,
don't want.
stronger. They said we're banning the US dollar.
Yeah, they're banning the dollar. You have to use the rupee now, which is going to lower the demand for the dollar. So right now there's like Sri Lanka, like, for when you think of Sri Lanka is basically going to be deemed as bankrupt now because they can't afford to go get dollars.
And they have
Like,
no currency.
yeah, they have no native currency, right? They have no native currency that is going to be accepted. There's a comparison of how strong is currency X compared to the dollar. That's what the Dixie really does, the DXY. I'm trying to find a decent chart for it so I could share. Let's see.
I mean, it was like up at 108.
Yeah, and I think that's like almost an all-time high.
It is. It hasn't been there since like what, 1980 and 1940.
Yeah. All right, let's see. There's the chart. Let's share that. I'm going to share it. There it is. So let's see if I can get this right. So, not the greatest chart. Let's see. Can I go? Let's do a 10-year view. I don't even know if I can go beyond that. But you can see how, relatively speaking, it's just insane. It's just way up there. Like the DXY, here's at 108. I think if you go to a chart that's like, I couldn't, this one doesn't do it. But if you go like back to 1980, I don't even think, let's see. Yeah, this doesn't even go back far enough. I'll look for another screen while we're talking. But
And I'm gonna give a shout out, Derwin. What's up? Trineman, what's up? And Corey, I don't know you, but I think I've seen you on chats before several times. So thanks for being here, guys. It's pretty cool to have you all.
yeah, well, you get the idea. There's the 43-year chart. Let me share that now. See if I can get that going. Here we go. So let's try to share screen again. Share screen. And I want to do that one. See that?
Yep.
So let's see. Let's do 30 years. So it doesn't show the most recent number, but you can see back in, there it is. The DX, is this the DXY?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it hasn't been this high since essentially right after 9/11. So that's when it went. So, and it doesn't typically go straight up in a straight line either. It'll go up and then I'll pull back some. So we may see it pull back a little bit now and then go up again. And that's what the chart I saw earlier. But it's, it happened here again. But when it gets over 100, it's significant. It doesn't happen very often. Now we're probably going to break this. We're at a 20-year high.
We're the one with the euro.
We're at par with the euro, which is that's when that happened. This is, we are par with the euro back at about 20 years ago. So that's exactly when it happened. So, and that's another good comparison. So if you wanted to buy dollars of the euro, now they're 1-to-1, and just a few years ago, like you could get more dollars for euros. So it's getting harder and harder to buy dollars. But there's getting to be less demand. It's a very complicated thing to think about, but again, it's just a comparison. And I think that the stronger the dollar gets, the better the dollar is internationally to go buy foreign goods. But more and more countries are saying we don't want the dollar because they want to strengthen their own currencies because they have to go get dollars. And there's going to be less and less demand because people don't want to use the dollar internationally anymore. It's a complicated thing, but this is the perfect time for them to overshoot on the inflation because they can afford to. And The inflation we all know is really higher than 9%. So this is, and they're still fudging some of the numbers. A quarter of the CPI is rent, and they're saying, and rent's at it's an all-time high. I think at 2 bedrooms, the national average is over $2,000 for the first time, and they're not using real numbers for that. They said it only went up, I think they said 5% a year, and it's really like 25%. So even if they put that real number in, we'd be in the double digits very quickly. So enough on the CPI. Let's see what the other questions we got going on here. Thanks everybody for stopping by. Let's see. First questions from Corey Letts. Any very updates? Again, for those of you who have seen me mention this before, I'm not at liberty to say some things because it would impact the Veritasium's ability to prosecute. But there seems to be some more strength. And if you follow Reggie on Twitter, you can see that litigation seems to be the natural course heading forward. But I'm not going to say who or when or what. But that seems that he's working on enforcing his patents for certain. So that will strengthen Veritasium, and Veritasium, the mechanism for using Veritasium as a discount for the IP, which was always the intention. The intention of Veritasium tokens was a prepaid usage of the intellectual property. So, but working out the mechanism, whether it be renting the coin, selling the coin, having people buy the coin to buy an IP license, and so on. So it's coming, and Reggie and his team are working on it, but I can't say much more. So things are looking good, and the time frame is, who knows? We don't know. But that's all I really can say about Veritasium right now. All right, and then when the next video is coming out on the Very Dow channel, let's see. Good question. Probably next week. I haven't heard anything about an interview this week. I know that we recently did an interview with, I think that was last Monday or Tuesday, with you can't really say the owner of the DAO, but really the person that was the main impetus of the DAO. So one of the key members of the Very DAO, that's coming out shortly. So that'll be coming soon. And I would imagine we're going to be doing another one with Reggie pretty soon too. So I know we just, the Very DAO meets about every other week. There was a meeting last week. I think there might be one this coming week, but it's coming. There's just not, everybody's timetable is a little bit different, and it's always tough to get together a bunch of people, but progress is being made. All right, thanks for that question. And second one, we just talked about the CPI. We are in a recession. A recession is by definition 2 consecutive quarters where
GDP
expected, because while they are saying they spin the numbers that jobs are being created, and so it's just the same jobs that got shut down a couple of years ago. So the productivity is down. There's not enough supply of commodities, so not enough demand. I even did the video today on the bullwhip effect, which basically that is it first happened with lumber a couple of years ago, with everybody trying to go to Home Depot and Lowe's doing home and creating a false strong demand for lumber. Everybody wanted lumber back then because they were working at home, because everybody was at home doing home projects. And so everybody said, hey, look at all the demand for lumber. The Home Depot and Lowe's put in all these big orders for more lumber because they didn't have enough. So the wholesalers put in bigger orders. So the retailers put in bigger orders. So suppliers said, hey, the price is high. There's a demand. We're going to make a whole lot of lumber. And now there's a glut of it. So then there was too much and the price went down. And now it's an accordion effect. It kind of goes up. Their demand goes up, and then people make more. And then the stores wind up with too much. And that's why we wind up with an Amazon Prime Day in July, because they've got too much stuff and they're trying to sell it and clear out their inventory. That's going to happen for big box stores too. I've heard rumors that some people were going back for returns, and people were saying that they return the merchandise, and the policy at the store unofficially is, here's your money back and keep the merchandise, because we can't even afford to restock it. We have nowhere to keep it. So they have too much material right now. That's probably going to be the case for the balance of 2022. So look for prices to possibly go down, because they want to clear out their inventory shelves. But that's going to be short-lived, because if prices go down, then people are still they're stingy with their dollars right now, and rightly so, because prices are so high. There's a lot of uncertainty in the economic market. and inflation's at an all-time high, but the highest it's been in a long time. So there's a lot of nervousness about the dollar. So it doesn't surprise me that they're trying to get rid of inventory by dropping prices, but we'll see how much of an effect it really has.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that we would be missing an opportunity to tell people here that if you haven't heard, it's not just a recession. It's expected to get a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
These numbers haven't even hit yet. I mean, what did they expect to think was going to happen? Are we live on YouTube, like, so that we should be very cautious about the things that we say, kind of thing?
We are live on YouTube tonight, so yes.
So with that said, I guess I would just say maybe you know who well guys, go watch The Modern Investor. He knows how to like skirt around the language in a way that no one else can. Actually, it's almost to the point where you're laughing so hard because you know exactly what he's saying, you know, and my point is that you're not paying attention, it's not going to get better anytime soon, and it will be getting worse. And there's a massive food crisis. You know, we have a huge shortage. So be preparing for worse. Don't be worried, you know, that we're not going to make it. And then just says what? What does he say? Be prepared, not scared.
Yeah.
Let's be prepared. Like, don't let it fool you. The numbers, Bitcoin going up today to 20 grand. What's it at now? 20,300. Guys, don't fool yourself. You're going to be seeing lower prices. Okay. Be careful. Understand that it's going to get harder to see these supplies. We're already hearing about things happening in over its countries. You know, we're not going to talk about too much here because, like I said, check out The Modern Investor. That's what I would do. He is very fun to watch.
He's a great channel. He's in this, like, I watched him this morning. He just got back from a vacation. I think he's based in India of all places. So I did not know that.
About that, right? He like his language, the way he says things.
Yes, he was skirting the discussion about the country that was just south of Russia, and that people are not allowed to go into the streets with pieces of cardboard with words on them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was really funny, but you could totally hear, or he would talk about a country, right? And then talk about like someone is enjoying a pool of a certain somebody. And the way he says it, it's like we all know what he's saying, but he's done such a good job like thinking of ways to do it on the fly. I respect him.
It's hilarious. And the funny thing is he used to do it completely camera blind. Like you didn't know who he was. And now he appears, he's got 2 channels. He invests in art and a number of different things. He's really entertaining. I would really recommend following The Modern Investor. I've followed him for years. He's great. Okay. Open-minded Bitcoin. How you doing, Derwin? Good to see you. Have you guys noticed Robinhood will not let you remove your crypto from their platform? Well, I've never been a fan of Robinhood because for that very reason, and a number of
they have been letting you for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, still get it off the exchange. You don't need it there. Hold your own keys, hold your own coins, move it off of Robinhood. That's what I'd say.
And I would also say that not all coins can be even removed at all because it's in the fine print that they have certain tiers of coins. Like I know that Dogecoin and Shiba were like tier 4, and tier 4s cannot be removed from the platform at all. You have to sell them and get them into something else to be removed. So it's not the greatest platform to buy everything. You really need to do your homework on whether it's a good place to buy a certain crypto. That's why I don't really recommend Robinhood because they kind of bury that deep down inside and inside their rules, and you have to really know where to look for it. And it's tough if you own something, you think you own it and you don't. So as I tell everybody, if you have to log into a website to see your money, you don't have control of your money. That website does. So if that website doesn't work anymore, or that app doesn't work anymore, you have no access to your money. So it's not being prudent or safe with your funds. So get them off of the exchanges, especially like one of the first things you ever want to do with an exchange is just see if you can remove it if you're using it. But Robinhood is not a great platform at all to buy crypto and remove it because of that reason. I don't recommend that using Robinhood. If you're going to use it, like one of crypto.com is better, but not still the greatest. I rarely use any of those platforms. I don't like it's very convenient for obviously because people use Robinhood for stocks and bonds and other things too, and foreign exchanges, but it's not the greatest platform for crypto by any means. All right, John's chimed in. Nexo seems to be doing well. Yeah, I mean, Celsius is trying to actually build back and get themselves on 2 feet. But it's interesting that the two platforms, the biggest two lending platforms, Nexo and Celsius, the one with a higher margin call number is doing stronger, which is Nexo. So you would think it would have been the reverse, because you would have thought that the one with the higher margin call number, that like you could. Then you let up to 83% loan to value on Nexo, where it was only 65 on Celsius. You would think that Nexo would have been in trouble first because they would have been over leveraged first. That didn't happen. It was really, it went back to the nuts and bolts of what did Celsius invest in with people that put their money there to try and generate the yields for their interest rates that they were giving people. And it was a much more risky investments that apparently that Celsius was doing, and that led to the instability. But Nexo's been alive and kicking and very strong. So I'm very happy with Nexo so far. But that said, I did make a video that I think I first released to my Patreons and also to Crypto Confidential. But about a week later, which was last Sunday, I released it to everyone, which is that you can mitigate some of your risk by using something that has a higher loan to value, because Bitcoin, you can borrow 50%, same as Ethereum on Nexo. You can borrow 90% loan to value against USDC. So you can always put USDC into the exchange or onto your Nexo account instead of Bitcoin, and release your Bitcoin, because you're going to be less exposed with USDC. So for example, you had a $2,000 loan, you have to put $4,000 of Bitcoin there and leave it. And that would be your 50%. And it could go down, I guess, below 3,000 before it'd be risky, but you could go all the way. You could put $2,500 of USDC and still cover that $2,000 loan with a little bit of cushion, and you wouldn't be exposed, and you'd be pretty much stable, no pun intended, with your loan. So it's just another option to release your crypto and just keep it as just a stable coin crypto, and then just set a notification somewhere that you monitor USDC, like an app like CoinGecko or anything else that'll set you an alert if USD happens to go below 95 cents, which it shouldn't. But that's a good thing to check on no matter what, because if USDC goes below 95 cents, then there's a lot of issues with that currency at that point. All right, next question from Open Mind Bitcoin. Yeah, Nexo is DeFi, well, Celsius is CeFi. Well, yeah, I could. Let's see. You can make really both of them are CeFi. They're more centralized than decentralized. The DeFi is really, that's when you have a liquidity pool, and that's like a Uniswap or Sushi Swap, Pancake Swap. So it's really not centralized. However, no DeFi is really decentralized, because the very nature of having to go to that one website kind of centralizes it. So you can make that case either way. All right, Anomaly chimes in about the recession. Okay, so I think we're caught up on our questions. Training points had a really good one. Now your keys, now your coins, and Open-Minded mentions that adoption is great. Yeah, I keep talking about adoption, and everybody is focused on regulation in the first world, but the adoption is really coming strong for third world countries, the BRICS nations. I'll be talking about that tomorrow. I haven't heard much out of South Africa, but all the other BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, they're all pushing with adoption. And the third world countries, El Salvador, the Central African Republic, and the 44 countries that went to El Salvador a couple of months ago to investigate whether they should get into Bitcoin. And they were all South American or African or some minor Asia or just Pacific countries, Pacific nations. Basically all third world countries. They're not in what they call the G20, which is the G20 includes some of the BRICS nations, and goes beyond there's G7, there's G8, which includes Russia, and then G20 adds another 12. But those are the 20 largest economies. But these 44 plus countries, they're outside. They're on the outside of the world looking in. The G20 sets a lot of the world economic policies because they have that strength and they have those strong economies, mostly because they have access to commodities like oil and gas. Well, when you get into a thing like Bitcoin, where you can mine Bitcoin or you can work with Bitcoin or you can convert energy into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin or another, it more levels the playing field to these other countries that don't have, like El Salvador doesn't have oil. Like Central African Republic might have some, but they're such a poor economy. It's much easier for them to generate energy, in generally speaking, than it is to generate oil or natural gas, so they can play on the world stage a little bit easier by using cryptocurrency. So it levels the playing field for a lot of these countries and allows them to participate a little bit easier, and
I'm
also
just
gives them more strength.
all the things I wish I knew like 7 years ago about economics and about how money works. And and if I had only known like even just a little bit of what I know now, I would have
Yeah.
made so many less mistakes. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
same thing about like with real estate, with 15, 20 years ago. I mean, there was a boom going on in the early 2000s of real estate, all the way up until the what they call the GFC, the global financial crisis of 2008, give or take a couple of years, when everything imploded and almost like the U.S. economy it almost went belly up then. And that's when, but you like hindsight is 2020. When people were writing their own mortgages as real estate investors, you should have known that this isn't going to be real estate doesn't go up forever in a straight line. There is a
yeah,
pullback and then it goes up again. And we're starting to see that pullback now with mortgage rates that are more than double the percentage than they were. They were 2 to 3% a year ago. Now they're 5 to 6%. And you're going to see a lot of abandoned construction prices coming, or construction sites soon, that it's just not economically feasible now. It takes 2 to 3 years, if not longer, for a real estate major real estate development project to come along. And I see them all over Myrtle Beach, where they're building houses here, condos there, because it's such a growing, like we're one of the top 5 states for growth, like South Carolina, I think Georgia, Florida, and Texas, and a couple others, maybe Arizona, are still growing quickly because they're leaving the bluer states and moving to warmer red states.
yeah.
And there, a lot of people were just they with the real estate being high, they were able to sell their house and move to a cheaper relative area and buy. They could buy for all cash, not to worry about mortgages. But that's coming to an end rapidly. All right, so let's see. Open money. Let's see. Talk about Robinhood, and then that's the final comment. Heard about a swim swap app. Swim swap. I don't know that swim swap. So
Maybe
I don't. Say again.
SIM swap, like cell phone SIM swaps.
Oh, SIM swap. Okay. Oh, SIM swap hack. That's more for cell phones. Yeah. So SIM card is a little card that has the ID of like what's your phone number, your account, and some little bit more account information that goes into a cell phone. Gives you access to your account through the cell phone. So yes, there are some of those hacks that are going around. I know that there was someone on Telegram talking about how he got hacked, and I figure AT&T had the issue. So you can do certain things, and yeah, you always want to have the best security you can. And that's why a lot of the wallets that don't walk around with your phone with having too much money. Just treat your crypto as if it was money, like cold hard cash in a wallet. Are you walking around with $5,000 every day? Is that a good thing? Maybe you don't want to walk around with $5,000 in your pocket. So that's why most of the wallets, if not all of mine, are kept at home and for security reasons. Like you did, Corey. I believe that's she. She corrected to it is Sim. So, all right. Open-minded Bitcoin with their question. The Harmony project being hacked. Yes. Some projects are being hacked. I did hear. I heard of another one. I can't. But you'll hear this from now and then. You have to remember that there's over 20,000 projects now, give or take. That's the right ballpark. I know that I think it was less than 9,000 when I started this channel last April. So we're more than double the number of projects in about 15 to 18 months. It's insane. And a lot of them are tied to newer things like Web3, NFT, liquidity pools. So they're not really coins that are out in the marketplace. But one of the most popular articles, I tell people about Crypto Confidential, and I should actually put that ticker up there. All right. So the one thing about Crypto Confidential that we do about, and we did when we launched in February, we did some baseline articles. And one thing I was asked was like my top 10 coins for the year. Not only did I give my 10 coins, which actually turned out to be 11, but I also wrote an article, which has probably been the most popular one I've written so far, which is how to get from 10,000 coins down to 10. So that was basically, rather than just me giving you the fish of 11 coins and just saying, not saying why, I gave you, here's the basis of how I came to those decisions. So you can do the same exercise yourself and find your own coins if you didn't like the ones I picked. Where Where's the chat? What's the chat? There we go.
I hear the little like pitter patter of the feet outside. It's like so cute.
Are you hiding in your office right now?
Yes.
In your office? Okay.
Yeah, we went to swim today, and it was my turn to take Grayson to swim, and then I ran and hauled over here, and just basically threw on a shirt and hopped in my comfy chair, and I'm ready for just hanging out with my family here.
Yeah, it's as you may or may not know, Wednesday is a very busy day with me doing AMAs. Usually every Wednesday, I do 2 for Crypto Confidential every month. I do 1 for Patreon and do this one once a month for free, just to give you a sample of what you'll see. But this is the one I have to watch my language the most, obviously, because we're live on YouTube. I can't say everything, but on Patreon and on Crypto Confidential, you get both the Patreon and the Crypto Confidential. You get all 3. So you're getting access to me every week, like all 4 AMAs I do every month. Last month it was 5 Wednesdays. It happens about once every 3 months. I was able to take a week off, but yeah, it's we could talk a little bit more liberally on some of the Patreon and the Crypto Confidential ones, because
I don't like this one because I'm sitting here and like I don't want to be the reason why my bro's channel gets shut down, because I feel like it could happen, easily with me. So I'm just sitting here like trying to make sure that we're all good. We're just talking crypto news, comfy Patrick, just hanging out,
Open-minded Bitcoin with another comment. Before I get to his question, I want to point out that both him and I were on a different channel. It's going to be an interview that airs this weekend. I think that Patrick's going to be on there next week. It's I think it's Chopping with Fire. It was a really good interview that I did with them, and Derwin did it last week by himself, and then both of us were on there this week, and it was over an hour and a half. But I think it's going to be jam-packed. I haven't seen the full video yet. I saw the teaser of it. It was really good. The hosts are really good. It is a great podcast. They've been around for less than a year, but they already have 10,000 followers and they're up for awards already. So it's a really good market, and it also helps to expand the audience, because that's what we really need to do for adoption. We need to find these other audiences to go reach and just say, hey, let's talk a little crypto. Like if you're interested in economics, and that's why I talked to Economic Ninja in the past. I've talked to Chris Taylor. I talked to Jack at Nobody Special Finance, all of the Ninja Nation. And when we get on these channels and we reached out to Simon, an uneducated economist, we want to get when I was watching Nobody Special Finance this morning, they had a live show about the CPI, and I was in the chat. So many people were like, they don't believe in Bitcoin, as they're like they're gold bugs. So it's amazing for me to watch the gold bugs think that there's nothing better than gold. And then you see and then if Bitcoin people come on and educate them about digital gold versus gold and why Bitcoin is better than gold, because it's more portable, it's more secure, it's easier to transfer, you have more control over it, you don't need all the security, all these reasons why gold has been money for 5,000 years, but that's only because the technology didn't exist for them to make it better. So now Bitcoin really is better.
I would love to find like just some kind of like economics, professor or someone, and be like, listen, I would love to challenge you to a discussion on Bitcoin. And if you can convince me why Bitcoin is bad, or that it's not even, I'll even say bad, I'll just say that it's the best asset class ever, then I'll give you $1,000. You got nothing to lose, but right. I'm bringing F with me. Okay. And then because it would be so much fun to watch you guys go at it.
Yeah.
I would bet my money on you easily, bro. Like I won't lose $1,000. I know it because I've done my research just like I should have. I've talked to you enough. We understand the principles of Bitcoin and what makes it like beautiful. Actually, it's kind of awesome. It's amazing. Like the idea that you can know exactly where your money came from at all times. You know exactly where it is at all times. Like, it's totally legit. It's not fake. And that know exactly how much of it there ever is going to be. That's the idea of like Elon Musk shutting down taking Bitcoin. To me, that was like the most dumb thing ever. It was the most genius idea. Anyone who would give you Bitcoin for anything, you should do that business.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's amazing once you know the properties of money and you're able to have a discussion about it. Bitcoin meets or exceeds gold. It's basically Bitcoin. I don't even say it's digital gold. I think it should be gold perfected because we know how much supply there is. They can find more gold. Gold is gold is divisible, yes, but Bitcoin is
Bitcoin,
infinitely divisible.
you know,
Say
Bitcoin's
again.
it's like
I
the
talk.
ultimate type of money, right? Because you don't want me to use the word currency in that manner, right? Is that right? Because I remember you get real hot when I use one versus the other.
Yeah, you don't like fiat currencies are not money because the definition of money is it holds value over time. That's the difference between money and currency.
So I did
So
it right. Said it right.
yeah,
There we go. So I'm not in trouble.
yeah, but Bitcoin really is it's gold perfected. Is every property of gold has been met or exceeded because you can find more gold. Gold is divisible, yes, but Bitcoin's infinitely divisible because of all the decimal places. They've got 8, and they could always add more if they wanted to. It's a simple vote by the miners. If Bitcoin ever gets to be like $100 million per Bitcoin, and that makes a Satoshi $1, they can decide they can add 2 more decimal places if they want to make like 1 Satoshi a penny. That'd be a great problem to have.
$100 million. A house is going to be, I don't know, man, $5 million, $10 million for a house.
Well, I remember there's a show I love watching some of the cartoons. I used to watch Futurama, and the very first episode of Futurama is like it was about a guy that he was frozen for thousands of years, and he woke up in the future, and he goes into a phone booth and he calls his bank and it says you have $3 million in the bank, and then the operator says please deposit $1 million for the next 30 seconds. So it's all relatively speaking. The dollar, like if Bitcoin is $100 million, that could very well mean that the dollar is worthless at that point. You just don't know. All right, so open-minded Bitcoin. What's your opinion on how we should earn a profit in this market? Well, Bitcoin is not a get rich quick scheme. It is a 3 to 5 year cycle at minimum, and you can make money by waiting for things to spike and then selling for other things. But liquidity pools, it depends on your level of risk. Okay, let me just start right there. So right now, when prices are down, you want to earn more coins than dollars. When the market is up and strong and growing against the dollar, you make more dollars. You take profit in dollars. Not financial advice, but that's typically what I've heard is what you do. In this market, you're basically about preserving wealth, and Bitcoin and gold and silver are been the best preservations of wealth for the last 6 months or so because everything else is going down.
That's correct.
So
That's the real question is Bitcoin is not about earning a profit. Bitcoin is about preserving your wealth. Now, there are people who earn profits based on the volatility from day to day, and that's totally fine. I would say if you want to keep getting into Bitcoin, the real answer here is dollar cost averaging is the way to profit in Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah. But again, it is not an overnight thing. And every time you can make an investment, whatever that it is, have a plan for it. If you want to get in there and if you buy something at $1 and your plan is when it goes to $2, I'm going to sell half, great, execute your plan. But it could happen. Timing is the hardest thing to predict. I am much more confident about the price of Bitcoin being much higher in 10 years than in 10 days. Because 10 days, I don't know what could happen. The Mount Gox release could happen. I made a video on that too. I don't think it's going to be that major of an event, but any piece of news could come out and just say, well, you could tank the market for temporarily if Tether goes belly up. Like anything could happen in a given day, or XRP lawsuit could get settled. I mean, all these things that could happen in a given day where Elon tweets something and then the price goes up or down. We saw what happened. If you were watching the charts this morning at 8:30 Eastern when CPI came out and it was higher than expected, everything went down, but it wasn't really the market reacting. It was the bots reacting to a couple of people getting nervous about it, and they'd all kind of worked in lockstep, and they've been recovering ever since. The first hour or two was really just automatons trading based on whatever the algorithms say. And when they hear that the inflation is too high, everything went down because Bitcoin kind of follows the NASDAQ market right now because of the futures and the options that people trade. And all the other cryptos are following Bitcoin right now. It's just how the market's working right today. But that's short term. Long term, I'm sorry, I talked over you, Patrick. What did you say?
I talked over you, Jeff. Sorry. No, Bitcoin's holding strong. I mean, I'm not worried about it. Bitcoin right now, if you buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, you were going to get 500,000 sats. It hasn't been like that for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's $17,000 Bitcoin. Come on, guys. I mean, what are you
Yeah.
waiting? Your
Yeah.
house is so much for some reason. Get a lot of Bitcoin. I don't know. Not financial advice, just not stupid advice.
So the funny thing about human emotion in these markets is that if you went back 6 months ago with Bitcoin being at $50,000, $60,000, people would have crushed you or people would have been killing other people to say, like, if you could buy at 20,000 instead of 50,000, they said, I'm all in. Give me that. But here we are 6 months later, and everything's on sale, and everybody's like, nah, I don't want it. And this happens every time in a down market. So these are the prices that you hoped a lot of these coins would get to. A lot of altcoins are down 70, 80, 90% from their all-time highs, if not more. Everything is on sale. I can't tell you the best time to get in, but it's certainly a better price than it was 6 months ago. But these things have a cycle. They go up and down, seems with a 4-year cycle. But the bigger peak every 4 years is much bigger than the previous one. So we went.
I think I'm gonna still see anywhere. I'm still waiting for like 50. Like I see it happening before a recovery, and I wouldn't even say we're in a recovery until we're close to like the 27s, 29s again. So we have such a long way to go, and I still believe we're going to have a lot of downside still. With that
Yeah.
said, I mean, I wouldn't be getting into any other asset class at this point either. So if I'm making dollars every month and I'm able to meet my bills and I have a little left over, where am I putting the rest? I'm
Yeah,
putting
that was my argument with the Mt. Gox thing, is that if you're getting Bitcoin back that you've essentially been forced to hold for years, where are you going to put that money that you're going to feel safe? And these are early adopters of Bitcoin. They already know that this is the best asset class, so they're going to probably leave it in Bitcoin no matter what. They're not going to want to sell. So if you got Bitcoin back from 7, 8 years ago, why would you put it in dollars? Why would you put it in Bitcoin Cash? You're going to leave it in Bitcoin because 8 years ago, you've been proven right. The price of it was well under $1,000 then. Now we're at over $20,000. I've talked about the crypto coma effect, where if you could just go to sleep for several years and wake up and say, "Wow, 2020 was $6,000 or less, and now it's in the 20,000. It was as high as 50,000." You'd be thrilled, but you wouldn't experience a roller coaster ride in between.
Yeah, the thing is, too, they're not going to get their Bitcoin back. I'm telling you guys, it's just not going to happen. They will get the dollar value back that they put in, or at most, they will get that back in Bitcoin, the dollar value back. But if you bought $100, 100 Bitcoin, you're not getting back 100 Bitcoin.
Right, you'll be made whole in U.S. dollar terms, but even so, if you had $1,000 of Bitcoin that was frozen on Mt. Gox, you may get $1,000 equivalent in Bitcoin, which would be much less Bitcoin today. But still, where would you rather put the $1,000? You'd still put it in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more questions rolling in. Cardano, Anna, hey, good to see you here. What are the Bitcoin hash rate ribbons? Can they actually help us prognosticate the price of Bitcoin? Do you know the hash rate ribbon term, Bitcoin? David, you know that one? I know I've seen a ribbon chart before, which is kind of like.
Oh, a ribbon as a kind of chart?
I think so. I think I've seen that before.
But I know it's on the decline right now, and it's about to get a lot worse as prices go down, just because a lot of the U.S. miners can't afford it anymore. Once you get to about $15,000, $16,000, your power rate's got to be sub 7, sub 6 cents, right around there, depending on your facility cost too. So a lot of people are already getting pushed out and turning off their rigs, driving down the hash rate.
Yeah, that's so people need. I'm looking. It is an indicator, the hash ribbons indicator. So it's not something I've looked at in a while, but all the indicating charts that I've seen said that Bitcoin should be going up. But I've thought about this too. As energy prices go up, that's one of them. I think it's the three factors for mining: the cost of capital for the mining equipment itself, the cost of the facility, and the cost of your power. And the power is a big factor. So if the power costs go too high, then you may not be able to afford to run those machines. Then you may have to turn them off, which drive the hash rate down. So, and this kind of happened We talked about this before Bitcoin ever got to 20,000. I think I remember there was like people like, are we going to get below 6,000? Then people won't be able to afford to mine.
Yes,
It can happen.
it
It can
always
happen.
in the U.S. statistically, 6 or 7 cents drives you out of mining. And that happens because at 6 or 7 cents, you're no longer profitable with the hash rate. So before that was roughly about, for a lot of people, when Bitcoin went down to like 9,000, 7,000, they were having a hard time. When it hit six, they started dropping like flies. When it hit $3,000, only the people who knew how to mine Bitcoin correctly and had a good, 3 cent power, they were in at $3,000. But right now you can't afford it because you're not making as much Bitcoin back. So right now the number is like closer to $12,000 to $14,000. You're going to push most of the people out like you did in the last cycle, and that's probably what will happen because right about then is when they start releasing the new miners.
Yeah.
And then can make more money again, and they basically smaller companies drop out and bigger companies buy them out and replace their miners with new inventory.
Corey, I did see this question come through, but the railroad unions might be striking starting next week if Biden doesn't implement a PEB. I don't know what a PEB is. So if you can throw that in the chat, Presidential Emergency Board. I wonder how this will affect everything on a whole if it doesn't. Well, everything's intertwined. So this goes back to supply chain, which is another thing I talked about today, and that goes back to the bullwhip effect about that you like when there's demand, people are like, when you got to put orders in so we can fill them. George Gammon did a great explanation of the bullwhip effect sometime this week, and it just means that if demand is high, everybody's like they're going to start producing whatever they think there's going to generate the most profit, but then if the demand goes away, then they're stuck with a bunch of inventory. So the supply chain is very, very soft right now, and the U.S. they did a lot of outsourcing to other countries and pushed manufacturing outside the states. Our previous president was working to bring that back and having that policy of being self-sufficient, nationalization, or a nationalistic outlook, and a lot of countries are looking that way. But the transport system is a big issue. The supply chain basically right now in the United States is built around what's called a just-in-time network delivery system, which means that they want to reduce warehouse costing because it costs a lot of money to store stuff. So what they do is they treat the trucks that move things from place to place to place, and the railroad cars and so on, as an extension, a virtual extension of their inventory system. So, and they expect things to arrive just in time. Think of your supermarkets. So like every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the truck shows up with the bread so that the guy can take it off the truck and store the shelves and reload all the inventory. So if you know the day when they do that, then you're probably more likely to have fresh produce or fresh whatever. And it's usually some days like between Tuesday and Thursday at your markets. But if the transport system gets hurt in any way, shape, or form, or there's a day or two late, then those shelves are going to be bare for a couple of days. When we were in Texas back in January I think that was this year, we were at the pharmacies and they were empty because everybody was sick and no one had cough drops. But 2 days later, they were there because the inventory showed up. But if the railroad goes down or the truckers stop driving, and I've heard Economic Ninja talks a lot about this and other channels that he has on. He covers a wide gamut, and you get a lot of different flavors of different things, and that's why I like to listen to lots of different channels about things. There's the trucking. You've got the cost of gas. You've got the inventory, whether they can get into the ports or not. You've got the DEF that they need in their equipment so that they can operate the engine.
California, they're saying now because of regulations that they independent truckers aren't going to be able to drive if they're not unionized.
Yeah, and there's also like if they didn't have certain compliance rules, they couldn't get into the ports. So there was that limitation. So, but I've also heard that they were keeping people out of the ports for inspection reasons. So you never know. Like what they do is there's 4 or 5 different narratives as to why things are certainly happening. You don't know the truth. For example, airline prices and. Is it because fuel costs a lot? Is it because they can't get staffed? Is it because they're reducing the number of flights for other reasons? What are they like? There's 3 or 4 possible reasons that it could be, and you can't really narrow it down and put your finger on. Oh, it's absolutely positively because of this reason. They want to have multiple reasons so they can create narratives to blame it in one direction or another. All right. Let's see. So we're 45 or almost 50 minutes in. So I'll give like a minute or two for any last minute questions. But if not, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Any last words, Patrick? You want to put out there to everybody that's watching? Keep it clean.
You know, I tried to stay quiet on that last comment because of that word. So I was trying to respect you the best I could. No, man, the only thing I'd really have to say is, guys, just take time to like find your peace and find some stuff that keeps you centered. Find some fun in your family and your friends. Get outside and enjoy the weather, because you know these prices, the manipulation, all the stuff happening around us, everything in the economy and politics and even geopolitical events going on all over the world globally. I just don't think we're going to like find any peace in our hearts keeping up to that, right? So I would like to just remind you guys to take a second and breathe and enjoy the things that you enjoy. Come here, buddy. You want to say hi? Come say hi. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, hi, Dad. Yeah. No, no, no. You know, it's like just take time and enjoy the things you love. Can you say hi? Look, you see? It's Uncle Jeff. Say hi, Uncle Jeff.
Hi, G.
So he's like, yeah, you know, take time and do the things you love doing, because that's what's the most important stuff, right? We want to make sure that otherwise we just won't be able to weather the rest of it.
Yeah, and it's like you keep that perspective, and it's get into don't get into heated debates. There's everybody's stressed out. Keep in mind that whatever's stressing you probably impacting other people. That everybody's under a lot of distress and duress right now for a number of reasons. Could be employment, could be income, could be the cost of this, or not being able to get something else, or a family member's not doing as well as they want. Everybody's stressed right now, but it's you got to find common ground and just the healthy conversations and debates about things are really good. And just if you get to a point where you can help someone to understand why crypto is great, you don't have to get into a heated debate like, oh, that's that crypto guy always talks about crypto. But it's good to like, like why, just now and then just have the conversation or avoid it altogether. If it's more brings more, whatever brings more peace. But sometimes having these people that you can talk about it, and that's why we do these events with people. We're doing an event in the Atlanta area next month where we'll start talking about that shortly.
Filing Chapter 11.
Who's fired? What?
Celsius officially filed Chapter 11. Thank you.
Okay.
Shout out to Daniel Pace with Simple Crypto Consulting, who always keeps me up to date with things. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. So there's another news that's probably gonna be like that's gonna be another.
For tomorrow.
Say again.
Got your video for tomorrow.
Well, we'll see. I'm trying to remain positive, and everybody is kind of like that's why I've been focusing somewhat on more on the economy side than the crypto side. But there's a lot of positivity in the crypto side. If you just zoom out, again, zooming out. Let's go back to what open-minded Bitcoin said. When in doubt, zoom out. Remember, we were a year ago, we did not have any countries that had officially adopted Bitcoin. El Salvador started, I think it was September last year or October. So now we've got two countries, the Central African Republic. We got 44 more countries looking at it. We have countries taking crypto. We have the post office of Switzerland is now offering Bitcoin soon. So there's a huge amount of adoption that's coming out there, but you have to look at where, remember, the use case. One of the use cases is banking the unbanked. Most of the Americans can get a bank account pretty easily. Other countries can't, and they're hurting, and it's a salvation for a lot of countries that are experiencing a lot of inflation, like in Turkey. There's just another outlet, and those other countries are going to be using it more because it's a safe haven that the U.S. with the strongest currency in the world doesn't have to really employ just yet. So keep perspective. Go for a walk. I mean, I think the modern investor, go back to him. He took a week off and just said, clear your head. Just go take a week and just like get away from it. It'll still be here. It'll still be here. Once you have your coin secured and you got your keys and everything's secure, you're not worth to worry about Celsius going under or Voyager or anybody else going under, not giving you access to your coins. Get your coins, store them safely, and do it as soon as you can just for your own peace of mind. So, all right, we're almost at an hour. I want to thank you, Patrick, for stopping by. I want to thank everybody for checking in tonight. Looking forward to seeing you again. There'll be another video out tomorrow. There'll be another AMA next week. Next week will probably be Crypto Confidential again. And we'll be working on another newsletter for the month of August. And we'll be seeing some of you in the greater Atlanta area in the second weekend of August for our meetup on Friday, I think the 12th, just north of it, about an hour north of Atlanta. So we'll start talking about that a little bit for what LitecoinLeader's event in our area too. So with all that said, I'm going to close the door on the bureau, say follow leader one more time, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.